right. Hey, welcome. We've got another artist spotlight today with Equanimous. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, good to connect. We have your album coming up, Merging Elements. It's coming out on October 2nd. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, hey, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get to know you. Where do you live? What do you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Equanimous. I live in Nevada City, California. Yes, Nevada City is in California. And I'm an artist. I like to focus on what I call blissful bass music, kind of combining the elements of beauty and, sexy bass. And that's what I do. I produce, I DJ. I've got a couple different projects, and Equanimous is definitely my main focus.
Yeah, I see you're playing all sorts of different instruments on Instagram and things like that. What all do you play?
Yeah, I play the drums and the keys and guitar, and I beatbox. I mean, I can pretty much play. I have a saxophone I can play. I pretty much can play whatever is given to me. I cannot read music.
Okay.
But I can teach music. So yeah, I guess I consider myself like a multi-instrumentalist.
Nice. That's what's up. How did you kind of fall into all of this? Did you get any special education or anything like that?
Yeah, well, my parents were basically exposing me to a lot of music when I was even in the womb. And my grandfather wrote a symphony, and he was a classical composer, as well as a doctor, but that's one thing he did.
Wow.
So I was exposed to music at an early age. I was definitely like what I would say a YouTube baby before there was YouTube. There's videos of me as like a little kid banging on drums and stuff. And then I just kind of taught myself for the most part, took lessons, maybe a couple months per instrument here and there just to get the basics, and then went from there. And then in college, I went to Syracuse University and studied as part of something called the Bandier program, which was a really interesting experience, having, instead of my, test questions in class to be on, like history or whatever you would expect it to be on, they were on like Facebook. The questions were like, what's the better social media network platform to use for this? And so I was exposed to that side of the industry at a very early age, and my peers and the people that were around me were kind of like bred to be working in the industry. And I would say most, our class was very small. It was only 21 of us. I think they only have 20 or so people in a class per year, and we were the first year of it. And my other peers are like working at all the major labels now, and some of them are big artists, some of them manage big artists. One of them ended up being the Chainsmokers. It was a really interesting experience to be part of that kind of major label music industry scene and learning about that side of it, because I ended up kind of going into more of like the conscious, what you would call the conscious scene, the transformational festival scene, that type of thing. And so I feel like I'm kind of like in between these two worlds, which is a fascinating experience.
Yeah, that must be interesting. You can take some of the knowledge and I want to say kind of tools, tricks, and transfer them over to this side of the industry, which is sometimes a little less developed on the marketing side of things. Right. Smart, man.
Yeah, it's been cool. I think one of the things too that it's like carried over is, if I am putting out a project, like we are putting out this album, and one of the songs is kind of like, it's still definitely bassy and dancey, but it's got like a little bit of a pop flair to it.
Yeah.
Talking about Head Up High. So I want to appeal to more than just one space.
Yeah.
That's important to me. And even though my home and my roots are in that like, that like bassy dance vibe, I still have other sides to me too.
Right on. Well, I think, how did we first connect? I think you mentioned that you Closey and you've played.
Yeah, I knew. That's how I found out about Gravitas. This was years ago. We were both playing. I think I first met her at enchanted forest, and I just happened to be there playing with, I don't remember who I was playing with, but at that time, like this was before I had even started Equanimous. I was just, and I had had other projects before, but I was kind of like in between projects. I had just moved to LA and I just had my drum with me. And at this point I just wanted to go to festivals, and people knew I was a good djembe player. So they'd be like, hey, play on my set and you come for free, that kind of thing.
Fun.
And, you know, yeah, it was fun. And so I ended up, that's where I met Closey. I just happened to have my drum with me, and we were talking, and she was like, yeah, just come and play with me right now. And I was like, oh, cool. So I played with her there, and just got to know her a little bit, and then did a similar thing at Beloved with her, which was really cool. I played with her at Beloved, and then, yeah, just kind of running into her every now and then. And that's how I found out about y'all. And I was like, wow, you guys put out some great music. And I don't even know if you know this, but at that time, you had kind of become like my dream label in a way.
Wow.
Because you were putting out music that I liked. I could tell that there was a professionalism to it, which was very attractive to me. And so, yeah. And then, like, you know, Equanimous had its life, and I had my time with Jumpsuit and all these different things. And
sure.
And then it just, yeah, I guess being reconnected to you through Orenda, because Orenda and I put out that track Mystic Descent through you. I was like, all right, I'm gonna send him some music now. Yeah, and I think that release with Orenda caught some people off guard, because he didn't have like his name was not buzzing, but right.
A lot of the melodies and the moments in there really took people, and I appreciate the words, and that means a lot. I've heard that a few times in my life where people say Gravitas was my dream label, and like, when I set out to make a label, and that was one of the hopes that I had for it, with that we could be respected by musicians enough that they would really desire to release with us. So it's awesome, man. That's great. Dream come true for both of us.
Right.
We just did this release with Savage, and he said he wrote down like that was one of his goals, and so that's so cool, man. That fills me up. Thank you. So. Cool. So now we've got your release, Merging Elements.
And my first album too. It's so crazy. I put out so much music, but I haven't put out an album yet. And
I'm just looking at 2020 for you. Like, do you have a number for how much music you have?
Yes, I did count. I have, at the end of 2020, I will have released 40 songs through Equanimous, and then an additional 12 songs through Bliss Looper, which is my other project, which I just started a couple months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of music, but it's I have so much that's pouring through me, and my philosophy is, until I have enough fans, where the fans are coming and they're growing, which is great, and I'm very grateful for. But until it's at a point where I'm extremely widely recognized. I do plan on putting out music, and that's one of the reasons I started Bliss Looper, was so that I could have an outlet for, maybe my more like yoga type stuff. And Bliss Looper, I'm just like doing whatever I want. Equanimous feels more intentional, and the brand of Equanimous kind of like this blissful bass vibe that I'm aiming to express, I think is becoming, it's just becoming more intentional.
All right. Yeah.
This album is actually, for me, this album is like, the album is like the end of the just put out music as Equanimous thing.
Yeah.
And like, okay, here I am, world, like this is who I am, and presenting myself in the way that I want to be seen.
For sure. Well, for the other producers listening, I think first question, had you always been that prolific? Have you always been able to like finish that amount of music, or is this something that you...
Yeah, even when I was in high school, I think I've recorded to this point maybe something like 800 songs or something. It's and not all, like, I would say like 700 of the 800 are like not mastered.
Sure. Well, I was having lunch with Craddy. This is a few years back now, but we were just talking. He was like, if you make 100 songs, like 10 of those will be good, but if you make 10, then one will be good. And there was just a lot of truth to, if you're trying to learn anything, just putting up those shots. I see Michael Jordan behind you of just putting in the work, you know. His documentary, man, that is an amazing.
It is, yeah.
Even if you don't like basketball, please watch it. It will fire you up to go after your dream. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, him and Kobe, both. Kobe's in that photo. They're both.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Inspirations to me, as in music too. Like that's how I approach my workspace too. Is with that intensity.
Yeah, love it. Nice, man. Well, let's talk about the album. Tell me, let's talk about a couple songs. Yeah, anything jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, they're all so different, and I set out this experience very intentionally to get different collaborators working with me. I thought it would be so cool if my first album had a different artist on all of them that I work with, to get different flares and vibes, and then putting them all together to see what that would be like. You know, that it started with merging elements. The album merging elements started with the track merging elements, which was the first track that I created on it, which is the last track of the album. And I did that with Geometry, and we really just focused on getting a lot of live sounds. And most of that track is not like a digital sound. So it's like, a lot of it's my voice doing like, oh, and like funny noises like that, and then taking it and like making it sound cool. And Geometry is a really good like native flute player, so we got those tracks in there, and that set the tone for the whole album. So when I was recording tracks, you know, I got to go, sometimes it was in my studio, sometimes it was in other people's, you know, I got to go to Auralponics, and we came up with this cool idea of me doing a beatbox like break beat thing on a house track and recording the djembe, and that's how Tahini Kiatsu was created, and you know, lots of different things. And then like when I got in the studio with Skysia, I was like, all right, I want this album to have like this beautiful epic opening that goes into like a dance track, and that's when we made Arise, which is, you know, is such a unique track, Arise, starting out with that kind of like down tempo thing, and then it goes to this like African beat or something, you know, and then combining. And I just wanted to create new sounds that people haven't heard before. You know, I love, like, I grew up on Paul Simon's Graceland, and I loved how he integrated just the African style guitars and the rhythmic stuff with like his soothing voice. And so, I'm very influenced by drums and djembe and that type of dance music. And I'm very influenced by pretty melodies, you know, Sigaros and that type of thing. And so, you know, combining it in tracks like Arise or Tahini Kiatsu, or even Airbender with Ahee, you know, merging in that kind of like epic orchestral feeling with Ahee's like classic, you know, get down bass thing. I thought it's pretty cool. And honestly, I'm just curious to see what people think, because to me, it really does feel like a different sound that I am excited.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, it's absolutely worth multiple listens, which is what I look for in an album release. Like, I'd never want to have an album where you kind of get it on the first run. Like, that's not what an album's for. And I think, to your point, like, you've been working really hard. You've been releasing with a lot of different labels and collectives and yourself, and just putting in the work to build your name, which I think like that's something we look for in artists, is like, you're not waiting for somebody to do it for you, you're doing it. And then when you're going into the studio, you're working to be creative, whether it's a hit or a miss, it doesn't matter. This is a creative arts industry world. Like, bring something fresh to the table where people are like, whoa, even if they're confused by that or they're turned off by that, good, that you made someone feel something. That's important. What doesn't work, what isn't good is, okay, that sounds like a bad copy of some other song. Like, so right on. I'm really stoked. You know, we looked at this in a couple different ways, and you know, our schedule gets pretty full every year, and this was a yes for us. One, because of your work ethic, and two, because of, like, we love all the collabs. That was a very cool thing. And you've collabed with people like like Ahee and Knock Knock, who won our producer challenge, and so with Gravitas Create, so that was like and having worked with Orenda was really cool kind of lead in. So I guess I tell that story for people that are like looking to work with labels and looking to work with collectives of like, you got to have your hustle and be doing your work, and then let that relationship evolve, and and ask and put in the work. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this album. Let's talk about the artwork a little bit. You said you got some decent reactions from people.
Oh yeah, I got so many great reactions. I didn't even like think about what I was doing, but we haven't really like announced it at this stage of filming this. We hadn't really announced it to anyone yet, and I was planning on doing a big announcement post and all these things, and I just like made it my cover background, like didn't even have I think I just said coming October 2nd, just put it as my cover. I was like, all right, this will be like there so that when we make the big post, it'll like take off or whatever. Yeah. And so I got like hundreds of likes on it. I didn't even know, and a bunch of people commenting, people texting me, messaging me, wow, this is dope art, artists that I respect. And I'm like, whoa, look at that album art. And I was like, I didn't even realize that album art could have such a strong effect. So that was a really cool experience, just that everyone loved the art so much.
Yeah, so Edamame, who's released with Gravitas, he also released with Emancipator's label, and he's super talented, but he's also a very musician. He's also super talented graphic artist, and so he's done some merch for us. He's done some album arts, and I think this is my favorite that he's done for us. So excited to show the world that.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for connecting that and all the support that you do.
Yeah.
I do want to say to anyone out there, if you are looking to for support and you are considering Gravitas, I will tell you that I have worked with different labels and I've worked with myself, and the level of support that I'm feeling from Gravitas is very strong, and I really, really appreciate it. So awesome. I can't recommend them more to any other artist.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'll just to speak to that is like, we think of people we think of the fans, the audience, the listeners. Obviously that kind of like, we think of that as our customer. We want to make sure that we're delivering great music and art to people on a regular, consistent basis, so that when they go to spend their time, their valuable time and their valuable money digging into our catalog, that they're not disappointed, they're excited, they're left emotionally touched by the music, and wow, this is different, this is unique, this is not like every other label or anything I've heard before. But we also very much care about our artists, and like, we've worked really hard to build up our knowledge base and our team so that we can work people through some of the harder questions and challenges of the release, so that the artists leave more educated, more empowered, that they can go and apply those things to their future releases. So
totally, yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, do you have any tips for artists that are kind of getting started, or thoughts about like what's maybe things that have worked well for you in the past?
Yeah, collaborate as much as you can. It's so good to collaborate on multiple levels. You end up getting different cool musical sounds that you didn't know were there, that then will influence your next music. It's attractive to Spotify, and you'll get more plays.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a great way to, I think, to just further your brand, honestly. So my recommendation would be collaborate, put out music intelligently. You can put out a lot of music, but do it intelligently. Don't just make a song and put it out with no plan. I would not recommend that to anyone, as I'm sure you wouldn't either. No. And I would just say, like, what I'm finding is have your goal and then don't stop. And just, I look forward to waking up every day and working on whatever music it is I'm going to work on, or, a lot of the times it's not music, it's making sure my social media looks good and stuff like this. And so just have your goal and work towards it, and, know that it might not come in a day.
For sure.
It's crazy. I've seen it happen in a day before.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, it's a grind, and it comes in waves and steps, and yeah, just ask questions and do the best you can. That's my advice.
Do you write down your goals?
I have, yeah. So, you know, I have a long list of, what I do is I take my goals, and then I delegate my goals, I guess you could say, or I separate them into smaller tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I okay, well, so if my goal is like, all right, I want to release an album on Gravitas, 2016, no artist name. What am I doing? I want to release an album on Gravitas, you know, so what do I do to get there? Now, to be honest, I wasn't thinking that the whole time, you know, but like, if I want to do that, okay, what do I need to do? Let's put out some music. Let's get me in a place where Gravitas would even consider me. You know, they're not going to think about me right now. I'm in Josh Mo. But you build that up. And so like I need a certain amount of followers to do that. Maybe I want to I'll put out some more live videos or whatever. So just like working backwards. And then I have a long list of all my to-dos that I keep on adding to that list, and it's a very important list to me. And that's my day, is I tackle a couple of things per day on that big list. Yeah. That's how I do it.
Yeah. I mean, I get the feeling, I mean, and not in a bad way. I think when I say this, some people might be turned off, but you treat it like a job. You treat it like, you know, and not only that, but even more like this is your dream, and you're going for it. I would definitely echo that. I would just say I've had a recent experience where I wrote down some of my goals, and just that process of actually physically writing them down, it just brings things to pass. And I think that there's a lot what you said about intention, like setting your intentions, like really sitting down and thinking about what do I want to create, what do I want to bring to this world, and writing those things down has had a lot of power in my life. So I absolutely encourage people to do that for sure.
I do as well. Yeah, I actually remember with this album specifically, I was like, before I started this album, which must have been 2 years ago, is probably when I really started this thing. I had this idea to do a collaborative album, and I remember like thinking I needed to reach out to an investor or something to like help me get the other artists and just do these different things. And the act of sharing with this like random investor who I didn't end up working with, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Like just sharing with them, hey, this is what I want to do, spoke to exactly what you were just talking about, of like writing down a goal. It was, you know, he was my witness. And so that's what actually like started everything. So yeah, I fully just want to, you know, I echo that.
Yeah, you got to believe it. You got to write it down. You got to believe it yourself more than anybody else. And then not give up on it and come back to that dream. It's okay to say, okay, that's not what I want anymore. It's also okay to, you know, not want to do it that day. And then the next day give up, being like, all right, I'm back on it. I want this again, you know? It is a struggle. It is a grind. Anything worth doing or having is gonna feel like that. And that's actually like the biggest gift of those experiences is the struggle, is the perseverance of like asking yourself those questions. This is what I really want. Does this, you know, and I guess a little bit of it's maybe not sad, but it's like when you get to the end of it, when you actually get to that goal, there's a little bit of I guess I would say it's a letdown. It's like, and now what? And then what? And I'll just share on mine is like, I wanted to really work with an artist that played at Red Rocks or be a part of something and have a show at Red Rocks. And in some weird way, I was able to be managing both Beats Antique and Closey, and they played at Red Rocks on the same night. And I got to stand on that stage and look up at a sold out show and have a small part in that. And that was like, I had crossed a goal off my list, and it was interesting feeling after the fact. I was like, okay, now what? Now what do I want to do from here? So, but when I look back on it, I don't really think about that moment. I think about all of the other things that led up to it, and the hard work and the dedication and showing up for myself and for others, and honestly being of service for other people. And I think being a musician, being an artist, is being of service to the world. And to speak to what's happening right now with COVID and sort of at least United States government and the failing to sort of take care of some of our artists, is I'm pissed off. I think we society need to like recognize how much we're leaning on the beautiful music, the beautiful art.